everybody and welcome along to PSGL Season 32, round number 9 of the top tier on the PlayStation side. And the championship is getting very, very close indeed. 3 points separated between the top 3 drivers, and the top 2 drivers are tied on points. So anything can happen. My name is Jessball, and joining me in the commentary box as usual, we got Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it tonight. Like you said, it's become a very interesting championship over the past few rounds. It looked kind of set on that Rudy had this one in the bag at the halfway point, and now that is definitely not the case. It's really tightened up in the last 3 rounds or so. So, yeah, really, really exciting to end off the season. 3 rounds to go. 3 drivers still in it. 3 points between all 3 of them. It's seeming like number 3 is the lucky number for us, it seems, at the moment, isn't it? But yeah, that was... yeah, it was a great race last time out, of course, in Belgium as well. We've had quite a few good rounds on the trot now. So, yeah, we're really into a swing of momentum at this point in the championship.
Yes, we were at Belgium last week, and it was a pretty good race, but we saw Rudy, who did originally score higher in last week's Grand Prix. He got himself another 5-second penalty with a collision with Marcados, so he's dropped down a few places in the overall results, which drops him down to 3rd in the standings. Rowan now leads the way due to him winning more races, obviously, with Legend only winning 1 and Legend in 2nd place as well. He was in the middle of nowhere in the few races beforehand, but he started to hold his own in the last couple of races, whereas Rudy was the complete opposite. And Rowan, he just did really well in the last couple of races, and he's looking like he could be the favourite. But we said that about Rudy, and then he started to really pretty much bottle it. So hopefully it's not the same for Rowan.
Yeah, let's hope it's not the same for Rowan, like you say. But yeah, it's been such a strong run of form for him and for Legend as well. Of course, Legend's maybe not had the outright speed of Rowan. You've got to say, of all the drivers, Rowan's looked the fastest on raw speed, but Legend's been incredibly consistent in the last few rounds or so. Apart from a DNF in Monaco, he's either finished 1st or 2nd in the last 5 rounds, so he's been so consistent, and that's what's kept him in the race, even if he's not been the fastest of the 3. So all 3 of them have had really, really good points throughout the season. Rowan started off a little bit slow and is starting to build up momentum again. Rudy started off really well and it's starting to peter off a little bit, and Legend has kind of remained consistent all the way through. So yeah, very interesting seasons from all 3 of them. It'll be interesting to see which one of them comes out on top in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom really must win the last 3 races with the top 3 pretty much bottling it. So Tom is mathematically still in the championship hunt, but to be honest, he needs a miracle. But there's still a fight between himself, Cazidle and Asacombe as well. A few points separating them 2. So it's a fight for 4th place as well. And it's a fight for a lot of position in the constructors as well. Ferrari is still leading. The debutant of Luca Carr had a really good result last week, with Legend picking up some points here and there as well. So they got 12 points. Obviously, Aston Martin scoring the maximum with Rowan in 2nd place as well. It's really heating up in the constructors too, but we'll go to the race then, because we got the qualifying and it looks very, very well. And the person I'm on board with is making his debut in the top tier for this season. It was the F2. He was the F2 championship leader, but he's not anymore, obviously. It was VSR Steph. It was Shizou Steph. Now he's FBR Stefano. So since he started in PSGL this season, he's known from 3 gamer tag names. So there you go. But he's fixed his wheelbase. He's about to start his lap around the rainy Australian Grand Prix. Obviously, the new layout compared to the last couple of seasons, of course, and it was last in Australia, PSGL season 26. So a long time ago, but obviously a lot of drivers have raced it in other leagues as well. Some people racing it on the PC, of course, if it was Rudy. But yeah, I want to see how Steph does in the top tier, because he proved himself in the 2nd tier, obviously in league racing. He was in F3 the season before, so I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm glad he's finally got the chance.
Yeah, I'm glad it's got the chance to. We've seen it, we say it many times, and we've seen it many times as well, that people moving up from F2 mid-season into F1 isn't as big of a step as it has been in previous seasons. And I think a good example of that is Ray in the AlphaTauri, of course, who is going to be the first person to complete a lap in these intermediate conditions as he crosses the line to set the benchmark around the Melbourne Street Circuit. And it's a 27.5, so we'll see what people can do in response to Ray's time. But yeah, Ray always seems to go well in the wet, so he's definitely a good benchmark for these kind of conditions to see where people can go. And as I say that, his teammate goes 0.7 of a second faster in the other AlphaTauri. So once again, Asacombe starring in qualifying, but I think we're going to mention it a lot tonight as we're heading towards the end of the season. We're going to be talking a lot about how people's seasons have gone and how it's looking for them in the final 3 rounds of the season. I think, not to be harsh on some of these drivers, but you've got to say Asacombe's probably been one of those drivers that's maybe let down expectations a little bit, hasn't he, this season? He started off the season in Spain so well with a dominant victory and has just never really been able to repeat that performance, which is such a shame considering his season 31. He ended off the season 31 with such momentum coming into this season, and it's just not really materialized for him, has it? Which is kind of a shame, and a lot can be said. A lot of what I'm saying about Asacombe can be also said about Marcados, who's currently 3rd, as Legend now goes to the top of the timesheets by over half a second. That is a mega lap to start off this qualifying session for the Ferrari driver.
Yep, it is, and if he's a driver that likes to perform well, he usually performs better towards the end of the season, like we saw last season. And where does he perform best? In the rain. So maybe it's a sign of things to come for the Ferrari driver. Obviously, he is tied at the moment on points with Rowan, and if he outscores Rowan tonight, he will be your championship leader with those 3 close on points as well. Legend finally got his first win a few rounds ago, but last week he managed to get a 2nd place in Belgium, so he was able to keep up his consistency. The only times he has not got a podium was obviously Zandvoort and Spain, where he scored 8 points and 2 points respectively. He had a DNF in Monaco, but apart from that, he's had a much better season. You would have predicted. He's already set purple in Sector 2, and because they're in the intermediate conditions, a lot of people won't be going back to the pits yet to just chill for a bit. They'll be setting more than 1 lap on these inters because they don't have enough for the whole weekend to use up, so you may as well go on a scrub set for a lot of the laps. So they'll be starting on high levels of fuel, and then we'll be going on to low level of fuel probably in about the 10-minute mark. That's what Legend's going to do. I think Legend's going to go even faster on his lap, and the answer to that is wow. Yes, he is. 126.081. We got a Red Bull up to the line. I think, no, that was not Namaya, that was Marlon come across the line in P12. Who's next across the line? We got an Alpine of Cazidel up to the line. He's invalidated as well, unfortunately, so I believe he will go again. I think we just got a few people backing off their runs as well. I believe Ray has backed off a little bit. Yeah, he's backing off a little bit just to go again as well. So 18 times on the board so far. A little bit further apart compared to obviously what we would expect. Of course, it is in the rain. You never know, it may dry up a little bit. So some people may be waiting in the pits, or it may stay like this for the rest of the race. And I can't remember the last time it was raining in Australia, but obviously in real life, of course, as Jensen has retired from qualifying, and I'm running on board with Tom now so I can see where he is. Oh, it's right in the middle of the circuit in this newly built part of the circuit which was introduced in 2021. Wow. Tom almost avoided that, definitely, but Jensen's run of form in qualifying has not gone well, to say the least, and tonight has definitely proven it, as the Maya has now gone fast. I can see the track is definitely ramping up a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be the case because Luca Kart's now gone P4 in the other Ferrari, so a good lap on the board there from last week's debutant, so good lap from them. Rudy currently sits P5, so yeah, like you say, Jensen's run of bad form, especially in qualifying, just continues, doesn't it? He just can't seem to catch a break at the moment, can Jensen, which is such a shame. Just to see who else is on a lap coming towards the end of one, because Izzle has invalidated again, so he will not be setting another representative time, I think, on this set of tyres. A lot of people invalidating, and this is one of those tracks, isn't it? We mentioned it last week in Belgium, where places like Belgium and that are circuits where people have driven it so long and the layout's not changed that it makes the field very close in qualifying. Obviously, the weather's played a part in this, but with this being obviously a street circuit, a fairly technical street circuit with a new layout as well, you're probably going to see a more spread out field here than we have seen at other races so far this season, just simply because of that. I mean, Monaco is a great example of that. We saw Louis, of course, in that race dominate that one from start to finish to the point where he won with over a pit stop's advantage, and this is a similar one of those tracks where that can happen just because of its street circuit nature. So it'll be interesting to see who can come out on top tonight, who's got that kind of specialism in them in these street circuits, as I think Ray crossed the line in the end to go P4, so an AlphaTauri 3-4 at the moment. We're just seeing, I don't think anybody else really looks like they're on a lap. I think everybody's just now starting to slow down and come into the pit lane off of this set of intermediate compound tyres. About 4 laps on them is probably the best you'll get before they really start to lose their performance. But at the same time they're losing their performance lap by lap, it seems to be getting a little bit lighter, the rain. So I wonder whether some drivers are just going to sit in the pits and wait potentially for a set of slick compound tyres at the end of the session.
Yes, I did note down the F2 pole time, and that was a 1:16.7, I believe. I don't think we're going to reach that unless it gets dry very early, of course. A few interesting facts about Australia in terms of Formula One. This circuit first used Formula One in 1996, the year where Damon Hill won his first and only Formula One title. We saw some lap one incidents in the past, in particular with Martin Brundle. I don't know how he survived that in 96. And of course, Ralf Schumacher back in 2002. And obviously, like I was saying earlier, not the same layout as we're used to, but it provides a little bit more overtaking. It's more of a straight between turn 8 and 9. It's not a chicane anymore, but the turn 10 and 11 can still be very tricky for the drivers. I think we've seen a lot of people in the lower tiers on PlayStation and on the PC tiers last week, and even the top tier on the PC struggle a little bit as well. So we'll see what they can do, as I think Elliot is going on another push one. Steph has unfortunately invalidated. Fabi has unfortunately invalidated as well. And the advantage about these drivers, they at least have some softs to use for the race if they want to. If there's a late safety cars can happen around it. Again, like we've seen in the other tiers last week. So they have a little more soft in their back pocket. Same with the mediums as well. If they want to use some extra set of mediums, they can do so as well. So everyone set a lap time. The only person to not set a representative lap time is Brock. Now, Brock did something that we weren't expecting last week. Brock beat his teammate last week. Tom had an absolutely poor showing last week by DNFing, and because of that, Brock outperformed his teammate. But we'll see what Brock can do as he starts. I'm not sure if he's going to be, yes, he is on the run, so we'll go on board with him as you head towards turn number 1. Quite bumpy in some place. You've got to be very, very confident in the car. You got to floor on the throttle when obviously it's in drive. When it's in the wet, of course, you've got to be more delicate. Turn 3, the braking point here is a break in the wall on your left. Turn 4, be careful to not run too wide here. We've seen people get trigger warnings here, and I think the stewards have warned these drivers to be careful about that. Past turn 6 and 7 now, heading towards the newly profiled turn 8 and 9. We see a few overtakes in the lower tiers as well. I've overtaken quite a few times here in some of my league races that I've done as well. You go full 8th gear here as well. In the wet, you can go speed up to 200 miles an hour. 198 he went to for Brock. He's 1.4 seconds up, so it's a lot better for him. It's not going to be fastest, I don't think, as he heads towards the final sector, which it is turn number 11. And then it is starting to, obviously, the sun trying to peek out at the moment. It's Legend, first man into the 125s at the moment at 125.8, but we'll see what Brock can do as he heads towards turn 13 and then into the final corner of turn 14. 14 turns make this Albert Park circuit for this season. Up to the line, I think it's going to be a 127. No, not quite 126.9, but that still puts him bottom. But Legend pulling up a marker once again, 125.8. He's on fire today.
Yeah, it really is, and I think for his championship rivals, I think the last thing they wanted to see is some rain in these conditions, isn't it? Because we all know how strong Legend is in wet conditions. We'll see if any of his championship rivals can challenge. Rudy is a 10th up through the first sector on his personal best, maybe that a 10th and a half in the middle sector, but that's still not quite enough to get on terms with the Legend at the top of the timesheets. Nemaya is up on his time at the moment by a 10th of a second as well, so keep an eye on the Red Bull driver, looking, of course, I think for his second pole position of the season. And as I say that, he drops the car coming out of the chicane at turn 10 and he's in the barrier, and that is how easy it is to lose the car around this circuit. You just take too much curb on the outside and it will spit you out the other side. That is exactly what's happened to Nemaya, so his qualifying session is over and done with then, and that is another victim of these street circuits. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one in these wet conditions in this qualifying session. Rudy coming up to the line, goes onto the front row, but is still 0.2 of a second off Legend. But that is much more like it for Rudy, front row alongside his championship rival. Where can Rowan go in the Aston Martin? What he can do is nearly throw it away in the middle of turn 7. That was another driver right on the limit of grip.
Yeah, that was very close for Rowan indeed, and you do not really want to bottle it, in particular since you've got 3 rounds left, and if it's the race where you would lose your championship fight, it would be this one, and a lot of people would talk about it if you mess up with this. So Rowan, we'll see how he does in the final sector. He is obviously the favourite coming into the final few rounds, obviously winning the most races out of everybody. He got the maximum points last week, fastest lap as well. He pretty much led the race from start to finish, but what can he do here, knowing that his main championship rivals are first and second? He needs to ideally be P1. No, he's going into the pits, as I was saying that, as it's hardly less rain now, but I don't think it's going to dry up enough for people to go onto the slick tyres, so they're going to probably go out now for one final run on those inters, as Kazizel is going to go for his final few runs as well. We'll see if he can improve on his 26.2. Only a couple of attempts for himself to find a course to get him up near the front. Nando's had a good qualifying, a 126.0 for him, Asacombe as well. So we'll see what Nando could do to see if he can get up the top, as well as he goes through the tricky middle sector as well. There's a lot of traffic behind him as well that obviously the other drivers will need to negotiate. Of course, Nando has backed off, so he will go into the pits. Anyone else on a run that we can follow? Steph. Here he is. He's about a few attempts up on his previous best at the moment. Currently sitting in 15th. It does take a while to adapt, being in the top division, of course, so don't expect him to be that higher up just yet. He is still adapting, obviously, after not racing for a while due to his wheelbase. He was meant to be racing just a few weeks ago, but obviously he couldn't, but at least he's here tonight to show what everyone else is made of course. At some point, he could be moving to PC. Quite a lot of the PS guys have moved to PC every season, it seems, as well. We had Orgiano has moved to PC already, and it's not on PS anymore, as Asacombe goes fast, 125A. Good lap time for him. We'll watch Stefano going through the final few corners to see if he can get inside the top 10. He needs to find a bit more time than that in the final sector if he wants to do that, but you never know with a chap ramping up this fast. What could he do then? 126.3, only P11. It just shows how close it is out on circuit at the moment. Kazizel is unfortunately invalidated. Markados, I believe, is going on another run. Yes, he is, so we'll see what he can do. But Asacombe narrowly beating Legend at the moment. Legend going to 125.8, but he is not improving at the moment. But he's on a run now, so we'll see if he can find the attempts he needs to get ahead of Asacombe.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do. I think Ray's just coming up towards the line now to complete their next run in the session in the AlphaTauri. Dezo's just gone P6, by the way, in his first race in the top division as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So great lap there from Dezo as Ray crosses the line and somehow splits Asacombe and Legend at the top of the field. So the top 3 now separated by 0.06 of a second. Great lap there from Ray to make it an AlphaTauri 1-2 in qualifying. Nando was on a good lap. He was a 10th up in the first sector, but has made a mistake in the middle part of the lap and backed off. So we'll be going again as he crosses the line. There's only a minute left in the session now, so some drivers will be on their final runs in this session. I think one of those will be potentially our championship leader Rowan, who has just started his final run in this session, so we've got to keep an eye on what Rowan can do. Currently down in P12, so he's really got to make a good lap of this one this time around if he stands any chance of challenging for the win today. It's going to be a difficult one for him. Keeping an eye on Legend, I haven't seen what his times are in the first 2 sectors, but you would imagine that he is improving on his lap as he comes through the final few corners of his run, but he has got a lot of traffic in front of him, and that's going to cost him potentially. He was half on the grass in the braking zone for turn 13. If he still manages to improve, I will be amazed, but that is potentially a penalty coming for either Frankie or Rudy. I didn't quite see which McLaren that was. I think they were both there at the time that happened, and Legend somehow, even with that, still manages to improve.
Yes, 125.7. Imagine what time he could have done if he didn't get held up like that. I guess he will go again. So we will see everybody improve just a few moments' time as we've got Ray going in the pit. We've got Brock heading towards the final corner now to finish his one. A bit squirmy in the final corner, so I don't think it's going to improve too much. Well, he's not last anymore. He's 15th position, so he doesn't get the wooden spoon. I think we saw someone else cross the line. That is, I think, Luca, who's gone on into P2. There's a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment. We'll see what Rowan could do, though. Final corner, can he get pole? Only 9th place, not what he wants, with his main rivals being ahead of him. That is very, very cruel for Rowan. We've got, I think, Deso in P7, a great qualifying for him. We've got Asicome up to the line. Can he find any more time? It is pole position for Asicome so far. Can anyone beat that? We've got Nando up to the line. He can only manage 8th fastest. He does not improve. What about Tom, only in 17th position? Can he put a time out of nowhere? He gets in the top 10. Markados, can he get into the top 10? Good lap time from him. He's another one into the 125s. 125.8. That is very close. 2 McLarens out up to the line. Rudy in 6th at the moment. Only managed 6th. What about Frankie in 16th position? He has unfortunately invalidated. Steph up to the line. And that was P15 according to the dash I see on my screen. So, wow. What an interesting qualifying session. And it's a sight that we haven't seen in a long time. The first since, I believe, the first round of the season. Asicome on pole. The last time he got pole, he won the race. Will history repeat itself?
It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, that's a really, really good qualifying session there for Asicome. And for Ferrari, of course, member manufacturers, they are leading the way, 2 and 3 for them. And for the first time in a long time in qualifying, our Championship 3 are very, very spread out.
They are as well, which means it could be still quite anyone's game in the championship because they have 3 points in it. So we've got Asicome legend, Luca, Ray, Markados, Rudy, Kaziz on the Maya, Deso, Nando, your top 10. Then we got Rowan, Tom, Fabi, Marlon, Stefano, and Frankie, your top 16. Then we got Brock, Elliott, and Jensen, your top 19. And that is your order coming into the race. And before we go into the main race, let's have a quick word from our title sponsor, GT Omega. We will see you in just under 30 seconds. Hello everybody, welcome back to PSF1 PSGL season 32. And luckily for the drivers, it is not raining anymore, it is nice and sunny, so we will see the dry tyres being used here today for the start of the race at least. I hope it doesn't rain for our sakes, because it will be an interesting race. If you just missed it, we have seen Asicome take pole for today's Australian Grand Prix, and we've got Ferrari second and third as well. The championship leaders being very spread out at the moment, which means it could be anyone's game. Certain drivers that you expect to be up there near the back as well, so they got to climb their way up the field as well. And a few debutants need to improve a little bit more to show their worth in this division. But we got a few seconds left before we get underway for the third to last round of this championship. This can go all the way to the final race in USA, but we got to decide who's going to win here in Australia. The 5 red lights are coming on. We've got AlphaTauri on pole, Ferrari alongside. And we are underway here in Australia. And looks like one of the AlphaTauris had had a very good start. And that was Ray up to third already. Lucas had a horrible start. That's come a great start. So is Legend as well. As they all wait their way towards turn 2. As Markados is out of the race already. Marlon's had a bit of issue as well. So I wanted those two had a bit of a coming together. And we've already got, I think it's a it's a VSC at the moment for everybody, so they have been forced to go down at a lower pace so far. But yeah, didn't see what happened towards the back, but what a start for Ray, up into third already, and Asicome doing very well as well, so brilliant start from AlphaTauri all round.
Yeah, brilliant start from them. Like you say, real shame for Markados. Was P5 going into turn 1, was looking for a good race today. And I don't know if he spun just off the curb on the inside of turn 1 or if for the third race in a row he potentially may have made contact with Rudy. Markados and Rudy have been inseparable the last 2 rounds. Rudy's been penalised 2 races in a row for 2 incidents with Markados, and that may potentially be the third. I didn't quite see if they made any contact, but they were side by side, so that might be another thing that's hanging over Rudy's head in the steward's room after this one. And if I were Markados, if that is the case, he will not be very happy with that. 3 rounds in a row, potentially 3 different incidents between Rudy and Markados.
He's got to be careful, Rudy, to be honest, because otherwise he'll be having race ban before you know it, and that could affect his championship. But we are green, underway in Australia once again, and everybody, unsurprisingly, has gone on to the hard compounded tyres to start the race, which is, to be honest, what I would have done. The hards are a very good race tyre around here, which is to be expected. So we will look at position changes then. So far, not much major gains, but Brock, starting from near the back, is now in 3rd place, so he avoided all the carnage up front. Of course, Marlon went in into the pit, so he got caught up in there as well. He's got some front wing damage, and you'll have a change of tyres, probably onto a set of the mediums, and then maybe onto a set of the softs later on. Frankie having a battle with Brock. Oh, and they two made contact. Oh. Pretty much too wide through turn 4 into turn 5 does not mix, because you'll risk getting triple warnings, and that sausage curb does not do you wonders there. So Frankie now down into 17th position. He was one of the biggest losers here today so far. Ascone trying to break that 1 second window already as well. Luca Carr taking advantage of Rudy so far. No DRS yet, of course, but we will see people try and get some slipstream around here, try and save their ERS to its full potential at this moment in time. And it is very nice and sunny as well, and we will start to see the tyres really start to get into their operating window in the next lap or two. It'll take a while to cool up after the formation lap, as I found from a race as well. Hards can last around 22, 23 laps around there, but ideally you pit lap 16 for a set of the medium compounded tyres to really have your optimum pace for the entire race. DRS is enabled, and the battle for the lead still hotting up. Looking good for Legend at the moment, as he's in P2 at the moment and in the lead out of all of our championship contenders so far. He doesn't really need to get past Ascombe to lead the championship, but the more points you gain, the better, and everyone wants to win, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely do, and considering Legend's season, the fact that he's only got 1 win to his name, considering the seasons he's had, I think he would definitely want to add another one to his list. By the way, Luca Kart made a mistake at the exact same time that we had that incident between Brock and Frankie. Luca Kart made a mistake through the very same corner and lost P4 to Rudy, which is why there's now a bit of a chasm between Rudy and Ray, that Rudy is now burning his ERS to try and close in again. I think Rudy's just managed to get DRS for this first time down this back straight, which he has done, and Luca Kart's lost it. So the top 4 here potentially starting to separate themselves from the rest of the field. So that is why there's that little bit of a gap in the top 5 DRS straight at the moment. I'm keeping my eye on Rowan, by the way, our championship leader at the moment. Even though he is level on points with Legend, he is our championship leader on countback of wins. Keeping our eye on him at the moment. He started P11, he's up 2 places already, and now he's just kind of sat behind Deso, I think, waiting for somebody in front to make a mistake. But if any of the first 3 laps are to go by, I don't think it's going to be too long until we see another mistake, because we've seen many drivers already making a bit of contact and struggling with this track, because of course it is notoriously bumpy.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people make a mistake, and for a lot of these drivers it could be damage limitation. It may come down to who makes the least mistakes around this Albert Park circuit in Melbourne, of course. Before the Australian Grand Prix hosted a race here in '96, it started with it hosted in Adelaide. And Adelaide was really, really good for racing. I really wish it came back to Adelaide at one point. Hopefully in the future it will come to that, but at the moment we have to stick for Albert Park, which is very, very nice as well. But we're going to start to see Rowan get some slipstream, but we got a battle for the lead to watch out for. As Legend did a similar move to what we saw Rowan do. Legend gets past Ascombe into the lead of this Grand Prix, and Ryan's got past Deso. Pretty much identical moves from Legend and Rowan there. Both our championship contenders getting past the people that they needed to. So Legend is your race leader. Not many people would have potentially got the move there. They probably would have waited until the DRS zone. But he wanted to be brave. He got the move. He saw the opportunity, and he did it. It may be down to his straight line speed.
Potentially, yeah, that's a little bit bizarre for Masacome. I don't know if he maybe made a mistake somewhere through turn 7 and 8 that just put him on the back foot down that straight, but to have Legend cruise up to the back of you and pass you in a non-DRS zone is a little bit interesting. So that's maybe something to say about Asuka maybe made a mistake in the corner before, or potentially, of course, he was really good in qualifying. Has he sacrificed a bit of race pace for that qualifying performance maybe? Has he gone for a setup that's a little bit compromised for those wet conditions in qualifying, and that could be hampering him in the race? We don't know, of course. We're only kind of speculating at the moment, but yeah, a little bit bizarre to see Asuka lose that place in a non-DRS zone. So we'll wait and see if he does continue to fall back from Legend, or whether he can recover and stay within range of the Ferrari. But still settled down nicely now. Everybody pretty much has caught back up into DRS range in this top 10, so they're all now running back in DRS range again, which suggests that I would say the DRS isn't really that powerful around this track in terms of holding a DRS train together. It seems if you do drop out of range, it's fairly easy to get back in range again, of course, because the DRS zones here, while there are 3 of them, they are very, very short. So they're not really any longer than you would say a DRS zone around Monaco. So they're not really that powerful unless you're really, really close to another driver. So that is why it's probably we're going to see it a lot easier to keep within range if you do fall out. It's further down the field. Tom has managed to get a move done on Nando, but Nando's going to try and come back at him at turn 13. He can't get the move done, so Tom's managed to work his way inside the top 10. Nando, though, is going to have the DRS here, I think, and he's going to try and fight this one back. Well, no, he doesn't actually. Tom was in the right place to get the DRS before turn 13, so he's managed to get ahead and get the DRS. So no fight back from Nando, and Tom is into the top 10.
Yes, Tom done what he needed to do. He's gained 2 places so far in this race so far. By the way, Marlon, who pitted at the beginning of the race, is on to softs. Don't know why he's on softs, but I'm guessing he wants to go on to the hards later on. And whereas Frankie, as predicted, is gone on to the medium compound of tyres. Now, safety car is turned on. We haven't seen any safety cars yet. We have seen a virtual safety car. Safety cars are quite high, so bear that in mind when you see these drivers race. They do tend to obviously make more mistakes around it, but if we have no safety cars, then it just goes to show how clean this race could be. So hopefully no safety cars for these drivers here today, as we're about to approach lap 7, as pretty much everybody is saving a bit of ERS at the moment. Everyone's around about in the 70% mark. In particular, the 2 Alpha Tauris, as I'm riding on board with them, they're saving a lot of ERS. Same with Legend as well up front. Pretty much, even though if Asakone burns a bit of ERS, Legend can burn some ERS and still defend. So, yellow flag, that is one of the Mercedes, I believe. That was Brott. That's had a bit of a spin in turn 11, so that's not what he wants to pretty much end that battle with the likes of Elliott and Jensen, unfortunately. But at least he's got his cargo and he doesn't have any front wing damage. I wonder if it was just a spin. This track is also a track where it's quite common to get beached. I got my car beached on the exit turn 11 as well. It wasn't nice. Not nice at all. And there are certain moments, obviously, if you get beached, you have to face the consequences. Let's hope these drivers don't face the possibility of getting beached here today as well. We'll see if anyone is close on launching an attack at the moment. What about Nemaya on Kazizal? Nemaya's an interesting character, I think, this season. Another driver who has flown under the radar a little bit this season as well. He's only scored 11 points this season. He's been inconsistent. The only time he scored points is Zandvoort, Monaco and in Belgium. Belgium, he only scored 3 points. I was expecting him to be up there. To be honest, I was expecting both Red Bulls to be up there, but he's only been scoring little to no points at all in some of the races. And if he wants to be in F1 this season, he really needs to climb maybe a bit higher as well and challenge for the high positions, but maybe he's just waiting for the other drivers to make a mistake up front. But he's the closest at the moment. Meanwhile, for the podium positions, Rudy is falling out of DRS range to the 2 Alpha Tauris. So Rudy's going to have it very difficult to try and defend off 4th place, because Luca is catching as well.
Yeah, Luca's starting to recover a little bit from that little mistake he made earlier on. And yeah, I've got to agree with you with Nemaya and both of the Red Bulls, like you say. They started off the season with so much pace. They locked out the front row in Zandvoort, if you remember correctly. Nemaya led that race from start to finish, but got a 5-second penalty for a speeding infringement in the pit lane, and that cost him the win. He won on track, never got the victory for it. So yeah, it's just been a bit of a lackluster season for Red Bull as a whole. They've had the pace all season long. They've just had that curse of the second they get into second position, they spin out of second position. We've seen Marlon do that at least 4 times this season, so it's been a bit of a cursed season, unfortunately, for Red Bull, unlike in real life, which is why we see Red Bull currently down in 8th in the manufacturers, which is kind of bizarre to think considering the speed they've had. But yeah, we could say that about a lot of drivers this season that have come in with a lot of potential and not quite delivered on it. It's been one of those seasons where nobody's had a smooth run, really, it seems, does it? And yeah, looking at Rudy here, he's burning a bit more ERS now to try and keep up, but I'm surprised that he's struggling at the moment to keep up with the top three. Legend, Asakome and Ray aren't really pushing that hard, it seems. They've not used a lot of ERS, especially Legend, who's nearly at 100% leading this race, and still Rudy can't keep up with them. And again, he's got DRS down the straight this time around, but he was over a second coming out of the final corner, so it just seems Rudy is lacking the pace compared to the top three today.
Maybe struggling towards the end of the season. Maybe the pressure is coming to him at this moment in time, unfortunately, but that is what sometimes you have to deal with in this championship. You got to be consistent all season long. That's what we saw with Dan Urko. Dan Urko's consistency was what helped him win the title with a few races to spare last season, as Rudy almost had a moment there at the moment, but we're not obviously going to see the title wrapped up this early this season because obviously how close it is, but you know, it just shows how obviously all of the drivers in the top three pretty much had DNS apart from Rudy. The only time Rudy did not have a point scoring finish was in Portugal, and that is where his season has really started to tip off his pretty much go downhill for him in terms of results. Without that, his season has been pretty good, whereas obviously Legend and Rowan both had DNF, both in Monaco, believe it or not, so they both do not like Monaco, let's just say. But there's other drivers obviously need to keep an eye on. Deso looking like he can get his first point of the season because he's in P9 at the moment. Great to see him up there as well. Fabi, not what you would expect for him because he's in the top 10 in the standings. Did not score any points in Belgium. He's currently sitting in 11th place at the moment, being chased down by Nando and Steph as well. Steph being promoted from F2 recently, and Jensen and Steph going side by side into turn one as Jensen, his old Shizu teammate, gets past Steph up into P13. So there you go, yellow flag. That is unfortunately Rudy's teammate Frankie that's had a bit of an off. He's down into last place. Marlon is in the pit. I assume Marlon is going to go for a set of the hard compounder tyres. Yes, he is. That will go to the end of the race, and believe it or not, that's the tyres that he started the race on.
Yeah, he started the race, and of course he got that damage early on the first corner of the race, so those hards won't have really had any kind of wear on them at all, so they will get to the end no problem from here for the Red Bull driver. But again, it's just been another race to forget at the moment for Marlon, unless there is a later safety car to bring him back into contention. But yeah, not been a good race again for Marlon so far, and for Frankie as well. Frankie's another one who just, of course, moved up last year from F2 into F1 for this season, and it's just not materialised for him. He's not looked comfortable in his top division so far. We haven't quite seen that spark from Frankie that we were maybe expecting at this point in the season. It's been a bit of a struggle for him. It's just been so competitive across the board that one bad race can just put you all the way down the field. If you're maybe 2 or 3 tenths off, that's the difference between you being in the top 5 and being in the bottom 5 in this grid at the moment. It is that close. So I think that's why we're seeing Frankie he's missing that little 1% at the moment, and that's keeping him down in the lower half of the field at the moment, which is of course not where he would want to be at this point in the championship. Just looking at the DRS trains once again, as Fabi actually has just had a spin coming out of turn 2. He's damaged his front wing, so there is some debris on the track. I don't think that will trigger any sort of virtual or full safety car. It's kind of, if you lose your full front wing, that could trigger a safety car, but only a minute bit of damage won't do that. But Fabi with some damage now, that is going to be another driver to join those at the back of the field that have had a bit of a horror show of a race so far. So everyone from 14th down, it seems at the moment, has had a bit of a shocker as it stands so far, and those at the back of the field now, from 8th down, people are just starting to get separated, aren't they? Deso's lost touch with the top 8 at the moment. He's got Tom just behind him in 10th position. Nando's lost touch from Tom after he got overtaken previously, and Jensen and Stefano were just trying to hang on to the back of Nando for that 11th position.
Yes, indeed, and that, you know how powerful a DRS train can be if you close up to it as well, and obviously Deso not going up to the pace as we're seeing the rest of the drivers, but don't forget it is one of his first races in his top division, so it does take a while for him to get used to. So he's doing quite well in the top 10, better than you were expecting, but you don't really want to be out of DRS when you've got the likes of Tom, Nando and Jensen potentially chasing you later on in this race. In a few laps time though, don't forget, we're going to see a lot of drivers going into the pits for their first stop of the evening, their one and only stop of the evening. for a set of the medium tyres. It will be around about, I had it written down somewhere, lap 15 to 16, maybe lap 14 for the undercut potentially as well, is when we'll see people pit. But speaking of that, Fabi is deciding to go early. He's going on softs. Don't think he's meant to do that, but he has got a damaged front wing, so it is to be expected. Maybe he's praying for a late safety car, which could happen, of course. Now, if I was the guys near the middle, you would probably go first and trigger the undercut to be away from this traffic and get rid of the clean air. But you've got to time you going into the pits right, because you don't want to get stuck in traffic when you come out of the pit lane. And Steph gets past Jensen once again. So a very good battle between those two, even though it's for 12th position so far. But, well, every position counts, even though you're not going to get a point. It's for the experience. And great move from Steph, of course. Jensen just not obviously feeling too confident, which is a shame because Jensen is performing really, really well in other leagues. I'm not naming names, of course, so what those leagues are. He's just not delivering in PSGL.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. Like you say, he's in other leagues. Like you say, he's been performing very well. He performs in a lot of leagues with his teammate Tom. Of course, they've raced in other leagues together for many years now, it seems, and they always seem to be on relatively similar pace. But when you come to PSGL, Tom always seems to have the edge, and Jensen can't seem to find that extra couple of percent to really thrive. And unfortunately for Jensen, he's one of those drivers, you've got to say at the moment, on the cusp of potentially being relegated for next season, because while he has had a few good point scoring runs, generally across the season he's just not had the pace to compete. He's been outside of the top 10 pace-wise for pretty much the majority of the season. A lot of his point-scoring finishes have come in races that have been a little bit strewn with a bit of chaos, and he's been able to benefit from them. So Jensen is running at risk, along with, you've got to say, people like Elia, and even despite his great performance last week, Brock as well, they're kind of running the risk of relegation at the moment as we're getting into that point of the season now where we're starting to look at season 33 and where these drivers are going to go potentially for next season, whether it's to PC or whether it's down or whether it's up. And they are some names definitely that's standing out at the moment as drivers that potentially could be dropping down for next season, which would be a real shame for drivers like Jensen, who have been in PSGL F1 for so long. To see them drop down after such a struggle this season, it would be a shame, but that's just kind of been the way of the world it's been so far this season, as we've got our first pit stop at the end of lap 13, and it is our championship leader Rowan who is in pit lane alongside Tom. Yeah, and Stefano is in as well for the medium compound tyres. Now that is early. We see this often in this championship where drivers will come in for that early pit stop. However, we have seen it in the past, especially with Louis. When he is racing, he always seems to be the one that pulls the trigger. Even if you do go early, it doesn't guarantee you a massive undercut, and then you struggle later on and you plummet down the field. So I wonder, really, I do wonder with this new tyre feature, with this new tyre warm-up as it is now, if your hard compound tyres are still performing at a decent level, which they will be at this point in the race, the hards won't be struggling for pace at this point in the race. I really doubt if the undercut's going to be that powerful, and whether these mediums, if they do pit now, whether they're going to have the advantage maintained to the end of the race. Because if you're someone like Asacombe or Ray, maybe, who stays out to somewhere like lap 16 or 17, you'll have 3 or 4 laps less on your medium compound tyres, and I don't think the undercut is going to be all that powerful.
It does depend on the pace as well at the end of the day, and yes, I agree. In certain tracks, it does take a while for the hards to warm up when you go out. And for those of you that don't play the F1 22 games as much, it's not like F1 2021 or the previous games where you can come out of the pit and just be up to temperature straight away with your hard or medium tyres, for example. You've really just got to warm your tyres as if it's a formation lap, pretty much. You've got to weave your tyres, get them up to temperature. If you go flat out straight away, you're probably going to end up spinning. So we are starting to see more people responding to that undercut then. So we got Asacombe then, who was in second place. He's now going to see what he can do, and the overcut has worked, it seems. So Asacombe is the lead of this train at this moment in time, but obviously he was in the leading bunch. Everyone else was obviously at the front bunch, of course, as Deso did not benefit from that undercut, overcut, unfortunately. It's a quite interesting battle for looks like P9 on track right now, as Rowan just about holds on to P9, but Elia looks like he could get P10 off Kazizzle, of all people, as well, on those hard tyres. You were talking about those hard tyres, Aidan, earlier on, just a moment ago, that you don't have to pit right now if they feel too good. We're seeing what the hards could do on 14 lap or hards with Elliot at the moment. He's actually doing pretty decent at the moment. You know, those two pulling away. he was able to defend and make sure they would not move an inch with them. So Elliott doing a great and superb job. Rowan gets past Lukaku up to 8th place on the road at least, so he's making progress. And our front three are coming in. Will Nando and Jensen do exactly the same? No, Jensen wants a bit of glory and wants to lead a bit of the race, which is fair enough. Apart from that, apart from him and Elliott, everyone else has pitted. So we'll see where Legend comes out in relation to Asacombe. So Asacombe comes out as Legend is your race leader. And yes, the overcut does work, but don't forget he's going to be on cold tyres. Ascombe's going to be on warmer tyres. But even then, he's starting to pull away at the moment. And we can see the AlphaTauri's really starting to fight tooth and nail for net P2 at the moment. And yeah, if you haven't come in yet, maybe the overcut could work with your rivals. And it's worked for Legend. And if you're the one who pitted a few laps earlier, you're probably starting to regret coming in.
Yeah, it's one of those cases, isn't it, where Legend had enough ERS in his back pocket, having saved it in the first half of the race, that he could burn it on that in-lap. And now he's got a lap fresher tyres than Asacombe and still has track position. So in the end, that undercut for Asacombe hasn't worked really at all. He's not gained anything from that undercut, and he's got older tyres. We'll see if he'll try to get the move done here on Legend, but this straight's just not long enough to warrant having an overtake run down into the end of the straight. Same again for Rudy, of course. He's coming for that undercut. It's not paid off. He's still behind race, still in a net 4th position with a lap older tyres. Rowan's gained 2 places in that pit stop, 3 places, sorry, in that pit stop phase. He's managed to get past Namaya Kazizel and Lukaku. Lukaku's dropped a few places in that pit stop round. I don't know if he's made a mistake somewhere, but he's dropped maybe a little bit more than we would expect. But Rowan now runs in a net P5 with no ERS to his name and added DRS into the net top 4 and on older tyres. So the worry now for Rowan is that if he can't get back within DRS into the 4 in front, is he just now going to run the risk of plummeting back down the field again later on those older tyres?
Yeah, that is the danger for Rowan, unfortunately, with him being on much lower ERS compared to everybody else at this stage of the race. In particular with a track like Australia, it does take a while to recharge, so Rowan is going to be in a spot of bother, and a lot of drivers are looking very, very racy towards the end of this Grand Prix. It's normal. We've seen that in PCF1 and in the PCTs on Thursday, where it was looking quiet at the start. Well, pretty much it got busy on lap 1, quiet up until the pit stop phase, and now it's starting to get busy again. So we really will start to see the strategy come into its own. Who's got the best tyre management? Who's got the best ERS management? The one who's got the combination of all of them will be the ones that do well today. And we're watching Legend at the moment. He's managing his ERS effectively. Same with Ascombe as well. So that could be for an interesting fight. Whereas Ascombe's teammate Ray, because he's been fighting with his teammate, he's on 25%, and it's not ideal for him. Same with Rudy as well. Ray and Rudy, not much ERS to their names at all, and that could really compromise them towards the end of this race. We'll see how the ERS compares to everybody else. Dessa's ERS is on 43, so he's managing all right with his ERS. Brock has got past Fabi, but will Fabi try and get the switch back? This is a very good side-by-side action. Both of them, I think, leave too much space, but it's better to leave too much space than no space at all, as Brock stays ahead of Fabi coming out the final corner. So Brock stays in 15th position. Fabi, though, with those soft tyres, he's going to hope for a safety car so he can go on the softs again towards the end of the race. Otherwise, we have to settle for mediums or hards, depending on what tyres, obviously, he did most of the race on and what tyres he goes on to, of course. DRS activated, his tyres are starting to die though, so he's probably not going to go for the potential move at the moment. So yeah, we're watching Rowan at the moment with his pace. He was starting to lose a bit of ERS to the guys in front, but he's starting to catch up a little bit again, mainly because some of the guys keep squabbling up front for position. But Rowan, he's just got to be careful because he's running out of ERS as well. You can't use too much ERS to stay ahead, stay behind these guys and keep up to the pace. You've got to be doing a little bit of saving. Pretty much go for the ERS towards the end of the race where you can really go for it. See, Rowan's going for the ERS now as Legend gets past Jensen, who's not pitted yet, and Legend is now your race leader on track.
Yeah, this is actually quite, I think, potentially a smart play here from Aston Martin as a team, of course. Rowan was starting to lose touch with the net top 4, so his teammate has stayed out longer and is holding up the top 4, and that is bringing Rowan back into play. And if that is the case, that is, if this was planned, then this is great strategy from Jensen here to hold back the others. The only problem in doing this strategy is this is now letting Legend get away at the front of the field, and what this could do for Legend is solidify that race victory, whereas before he still had the pressure from the two AlphaTauris behind. He now doesn't really have that pressure at the moment because Jensen's in the way with no ERS, and Asacombe is going to look for the move here actually into turn 9 and 10. He's going to get down the inside, get the move done before the chicane, which is nicely done, and he should get the ERS to boot as well. He does, but he has now added DRS range to our race leader, so what that has helped Rowan get back in the train, it has inadvertently helped Legend get away at the front of the field, and that is not going to be beneficial to Rowan's championship at all if Legend has no pressure for this race victory.
I think Jensen is not going to be a friend of Rudy, because obviously Rudy's in the championship fight also as well. So, yeah, I think Rudy's not going to benefit from this either. But the way this is going anyway, we're going to be shaping out to be a close championship finale. For those who just joined us, the standings going into tonight, Rowan and Legend were level on points. Obviously, Rowan leading the championship on count back due to more wins. And Rudy being 3 points back, the two of them as well. It could be anyone's game. If any one of those championship people would make a mistake, the race next week in Abu Dhabi is really going to be the turning point. If they have a bad race there too, then it will be championship over. So they've really got to have consistent races throughout the final 3 races, including this one, in order to deliver. And it may come down to your second driver in order to deliver that. Obviously, Frankie being near the back, so obviously he's not helping Rudy a little bit. Luca Kart in P6. That could be interesting as well. He's probably going to try and see if he can get past Rowan, of course. Don't forget, Ferrari are fighting for the Constructors' Championship as well. What could Luca do in this situation? Don't forget, he joined the league in F1 last week after being promoted, I believe. And he's having the fish home. Absolutely love it. What can he do to help his teammate solidify his place in the championship, maybe? To help them also win the Constructors? Maybe make sure he can try and get past Rowan and make sure Rowan stays behind, potentially. I don't know, but he's a little bit too further back. He's got less ERS. Anything can happen, of course, but the more positions he gains, the more this could affect the Constructors' Championship. And wouldn't it be amazing to help your teammate win the Drivers and the Constructors in your first season in F1? That would be pretty cool.
That definitely would be pretty cool. Yeah, Luca Kart's in a really good position here, isn't he? Like you say, he's on the back of Rowan. He is starting to lose touch a little bit, but just at the final corner there, Rowan had a huge snap of oversteer on the exit curve. So I think it's fair to say that Rowan is pushing like crazy at the moment to try and keep up with the drivers in front, which is a bit unlike of what we've seen from Rowan in his past few rounds. He's been leading from the front for the majority of the past 3 rounds, and this time around he's the one doing the chasing, which we're not really used to seeing. But yeah, if Luca Kart can get in and amongst it, then that would be great for him and for Ferrari going forward. So that will be a big factor for them for the rest of this race. But he's got Kazizel right behind, who's looking pretty racy as well with P7 in that Alpine. Namaya as well, just off the back of this train. He is slowly but surely closing back in on this DRS train. Great fastest out there from Fabi on those soft compound tyres. And yeah, Namaya is pushing really hard at the moment. P8, he dropped off the back of this train in the pit stop phase, having pitted later than everyone else. He is now slowly but surely reeling himself back into play for the latter stages of this race. And yeah, as it stands, I think Luca Kart there has just lost DRS down the pit straight. So just as we're hyping up Luca Kart to have a run at Rowan, I think he's just about starting to lose touch a little bit with Rowan in 5th place.
I was just riding on board with Kazizel, and he almost binned it in turn 10 heading into the wall, and he just about caught that. A massive save for Kazizel there, because that could have been the end of his race, and it could have brought out a safety car, which could have changed things massively. But Kazizel still in 7th position and having a fair race under his standards, but surely he would have wanted higher. But at the moment, he's ahead of his main rival, Tom, as something had just happened in the background.
Luca Kart, yeah, Luca Kart had a big snap of oversteer coming out of turn number 4. I don't know if he hit the wall or not before 5. He was very close to doing so, but he has now well and truly lost DRS to Rowan in front.
Yeah, the shame, and that's going to help Kazizel, and he could potentially go for the move here as well, heading towards turn number 9 and 10. So we'll see what Kazizel can do in that Alpine car. He's really got to use his ERS. He's been saving the most ERS out of anybody, and to be honest, that was no contest between Luca Kart and Kazizel. Kazizel got the move done. Luca was definitely struggling, and with the benefit of the DRS and better pace, Kazizel is now up into 6th place. But the danger is now they're all out of DRS range to Rowan, unfortunately, which is not going to help in the slightest. But it's probably going to put a relief on the top 5. They don't have them to worry about for the rest of the race. And Jota in the chat there saying because it'll flex in their Tokyo drift ability. I have to say it kind of looked like that earlier on when I was riding on board with him when he tried to say that, to be honest. And I don't know what I would have done if he did bin it. I probably would have screamed and probably lost my voice or even my ears at this point. Meanwhile, Nando and Tom going side by side into turn 3 and 4, being very brave between the pair of them, as well as Tom gets it done. Very, very calculated, and Tom is up into 9th place in this race. Not many people go for the move there, where there was people that struggled earlier on the race, but Tom was showing all the PSGL, PSF1 drivers that is how you make a move between turn 3 and 4, and he's really starting to come back into this race. Shame he's a little bit further behind Namaya, but Namaya probably seems to be struggling at the moment. Luca Kart, I believe, gets a penalty, the first penalty for the top 10. We're seeing more moves being made. I think it's move central at the moment. They're starting to pick up a little bit as Namaya goes down the inside of Luca Kart up into P7 then. So Namaya is starting to pick up the pieces as well. I think Luca could be in danger of going out of the point if he's not too careful. So those two making some moves here with Namaya and Tom as well. This could be make or break for them for the time being. And Asako then, he's now within 4/10 of Legend. Don't think Legend can win this one. It could be anyone's game. I'm not sure if Legend made a mistake or if Asako just picked up the pace a little bit, because Asako's now within 4 attempts.
Yeah, Asako looking pretty good here. He's just sitting back. It's whether he has the time or the extra pace to be able to challenge Legend in the latter stages of this race. He's definitely waiting for the right moment, but we don't know, of course, if that right moment's going to come or not at all. Looking, by the way, Luca Kart's driving, by the way, I think it's fair to say he definitely hit the wall. That car is understeering a lot in the high speed, so I think he has got, if not of any visible damage, there is a little bit of damage on that front wing, potentially slowing him down, which is why he is now already at a DRS range to Namaya in front. So yeah, Luca Kart is struggling with a little bit of damage after that moment he had on the exit turn 4, which is a real shame because he was having a very strong showing in this race for only his second race in the top tier, running in the top 5 early on in this race. He was having a really good showing. Now with this little bit of damage, he runs the risk of dropping out the points like you mentioned earlier on. Tom under pressure once again from Nando, who's going to try and get the move done down the inside here, switches to the inside late, gets down the inside. Tom's going to try and hold it though round the outside, and he manages to hold on to the move. That is great defending there from Tom. Just the faster line around the outside, not having to take a tight angle for the corner, swoops back around the outside, and Tom is back into 9th place. But I wonder if it's just a matter of time, because Nando looks so much faster than Tom at the moment, but just can't seem to find a way through without almost making contact with the Mercedes. And now Nando himself is making a mistake. Deso and Stefano are right there to pick up the pieces as well. So this is a great little fight for P9. And of course for Tom, this fight could be crucial because he is currently in a battle for 4th in the standings at the moment with Kazizel and Asako, and both of them at the moment are comfortably in front of Tom. So Tom here really under pressure of dropping down in the standings, and if he's got drivers behind him calling all over him trying to get him out of the points, that's going to cost him even more.
It's safe to say as well, with him being in 9th place, he is out of the championship fight, unfortunately, with all of his championship rivals outscoring him today, which is a bit of a shame due to him obviously being second in the standings last season, him expecting him to be challenging for the title this season. But sometimes you get seasons like that, and maybe you can grow and develop this season as they're fighting again for P9. This is never ending at the moment. This could be a very risky move for Nando. They made contact. Nando hit the wall, and he's now out of the race. Now I wonder what the stewards will say for this one. What a shame, because these two were being very respectful for the entirety of this Grand Prix. But that just one mistake costed them, unfortunately. No safety car, surprisingly. I thought there would be a safety car, but I think it's probably a bit too late for one at the moment, which is probably a relief for Legend, because he doesn't want any other cars to close in, obviously, apart from the top 5 as it is right now. But yeah, Nando was having such a good race. It could be a fight between Deso and Stefano for the final point, and that'll be good to get for Steph to get his first point in F1 on debut after being promoted. That'll be a very, very good scene. It could happen with Luca's penalty, but we'll have to wait and see due to obviously Luca's damage. But Legend, I think, had a bit of a kick in the teeth. He thought he was going to get a safety car, but he was probably relieved that he isn't going to get one. But Asako is looking very quick on the straights right now. This could be make or break for Legend. Legend, he's got a big think about the championship at this point. He's ahead of his championship rivals. If Asako gets past him, doesn't matter. He's not going to lose that point at the end of the day, as Fabi has retired from the Grand Prix in the pit lane, so that is his race done and dusted. Rowan is just closing in on Rudy at the moment, so that's two championship rivals fighting, and we've got Legend and Ascombe fighting as well. I wonder what Ray will have to say about this as well. That he could play an interesting part of this race as well. I'm very excited to see how the rest of this race will unfold. I believe there was a lap car coming out of the pit, I believe, or just moving out of the way, I'm guessing. No, he wasn't going into the pits because no one else was pitting. He was just probably, yeah, he was just moving out of the way because he was lapped, of course. But yeah, if I was Ascombe, what lap would you go for the move? Would you go this lap, or would you go the final lap, or would you go the lap before that?
I think we've seen it so many times in the past where people wait to the last lap to get the move done, and then they've missed their window of opportunity. They've waited too long and the opportunity's not there on the final lap. I think you've got to do it before the final lap and then defend. If you're attacking on the final lap, you've only given yourself you've really pigeonholed yourself into one opportunity, and that may not come for you, as Ascombe again is putting the pressure on into the chicane here on the back of the Ferrari, but not close enough to think about a move. But is he going to be close enough down this straight? He's taken a lot of curb on the inside there of turn 10. Has he got the run potentially down the straight? Legend is moving all over the road trying to break the toe, but again, that straight's just not long enough, and Ascombe doesn't quite have enough straight line speed to get to the back of the Ferrari and get the move done. So he's applying the pressure, but he's not quite close enough to make a move yet, is Ascombe. It's been a great race from both of them so far. Has Ascombe got enough left in the tank to try and challenge for this? And further back as well, Rowan is all over the back of Rudy here, potentially for fourth place in this race. So still a lot of a fight going on further down the field in this race as well. But yeah, I think Ascombe just needs to find maybe another 10th here or there, but he is now starting to derate as well, whereas Legend has got a bit more in the tank. So Ascombe is burning a lot to try to fight this one. Is he going to think about a dive bomb move somewhere? Is he going to think about a late braking move? Not into turn 3 this time around. You can see him thinking about it. He's moving left and right, trying to find a gap. He is definitely thinking about a move, but he's just not quite close enough to make the move just yet.
No, I think he's been very smart at this moment in time. He hasn't had the best of results this season, and to be honest, this will be his first best result in a while, to be honest. The recent result he got, where he finished, was a podium, I believe, in Portugal. He had a DNF last week and the week before in Silverstone. So it'll be a great turn of events if he converts a pole into a race victory. But Legend, with the much more ERS that he's got, is managing to pull away from Ascombe ever so slightly. So Ascombe has to go for the final lap, but you might be right, Aiden, maybe too little too late, and that was a little bit of a piece of the puzzle, and that's probably just solved there. He had a bit of an oversteer moment, and that's probably lost him a chunk of time on Legend. He's got to really improve on his straight line speed, and yeah, Legend's starting to pull away as well and using more of his ERS. He's not even using his ERS at all at this moment. As Stefano and Luca are fighting for the final point of this race, as Steph gets past Luca up into 10th place, and it will be points at the end of the day because Luca and Elliot have got penalties, but he wanted to get on the road at least at the time being. Ascombe has brought the gap down to 4 tenths again. This could be getting very, very tight at the moment, but don't forget, for some of these drivers, there could be serious investigations, maybe with Rudy on Marketos. Rudy might not cause the incident with Marketos. We didn't see it properly on our screens earlier on, but we are on the final lap of this race. It's going to get very, very intense at the moment. Jensen is going to try and go for fastest lap to make sure his the main championship rivals, apart from Rowan, do not get it. As we got Rudy, who's going to try and go for P3. Oh, not much space left from the pair of them at all. Rudy, I think, being a little bit too ambitious there, and that could have costed him huge in his championship fight. Rowan's going to try and go for Rudy, but it doesn't pay off for him, unfortunately, as well. I wonder what the Shields will have something to say about that, but we'll watch Legend come across the final corner. His last race victory was in Portugal. He's going to get another race victory, which will solidify his lead at the top of the standings. Legend wins in Australia. Ascombe with a great result in second. So close to the win at the end of the day, but it just wasn't meant to be. Ray in third. A great result from AlphaTauri today, and great result for Ray. His best result of the season by a mile. Rudy in fourth. Rowan in fifth. Namaya in sixth. Kazizel in seventh. Tom in eighth. Just about beats Desra up the line. And congratulations to FBR Steph on his PS F1 debut. He gets points. 1 point. I know it's 1 point, but to be honest, with his high caliber drivers, I have to say, very impressed. How many positions does he gain? He gained 5 places, so I have to say, solid race for Steph.
Yeah, a really solid race for Steph, like you say, in his first race of the championship. Desso as well, we can't forget, this is the first race of the season as well for Desso. And he has also scored points on his debut in the season as well. So great drives from both of our debutants in the season tonight to both end up in the points. Really, really solid drives from both of them as well. Yeah, what a race. It started to get very tasty at the end. It didn't quite materialise into that battle for the win, but it was still a really, really good race nonetheless, and Legend gets his second win of the season. I'll tell you what, Legend had maybe a bit of a slow start by his standards, but as he did last season, he is coming on song late in the season. That is his fourth top 2 finish in a row and his second win in 3 races. So he's been incredibly, incredibly strong in these last few rounds, and to add another win to that has been very, very strong from himself. And yeah, shout out as well, of course, both AlphaTauris on the podium. Great drives from both of them, and hopefully they can carry a bit more of that momentum going into the latter stages of the season.
Well, currently AlphaTauri are 7th in the standings, so they don't have anything to respond in the constructors, unfortunately, but at least it helps them go up the constructors a little bit as well. A lot of people in the chat saying great drive for Legend. I'll have to say Legend was faultless all race as well, and he got one of the fastest laps of the session so far. I think he got the fastest lap over, no he didn't, I think that belonged to Jensen, but there we go. He got the fastest lap in the top 10 at least, and I'm not going to say about favourites, because every time I say about favourites, they don't tend to have the best of race. But to be fair, Rowan did have a solid race, but he probably would have wanted to be high. Don't forget he started 11th and he finished 5th, so for him, I have to say that was a good damage limitation race for him and some solid points. But your order then for the third to last round of the championship, we got Legend from Asacombe, Ray, Rudy, that could be investigated from the Shears, Rowan, Namaya, Kizidal, Tom, Desso and Seth. Luca just missed out on the points, so we got Marla, Elliot, Jensen your top 14, Brock and Frankie your top 15 and 16, Frankie being a lap down, and we've got Fabi, Nando and Markodos, unfortunately DNFing from this race. What a good race, especially towards the end. Busy start, quiet middle, a very busy ending.
Yeah, it was a typical PSGL F1 race, isn't it? Busy at the start, mellows down a little bit, and then as soon as the pit stop phase comes in, it really kicks on again. And yeah, it was a really good race. And like you say, mentioned for Rowan, P5 from 11th on a grid in a race with no on-track safety cars at least, and on a track as difficult as it is to overtake around Australia. Good damage limitation, like you say, from Rowan, but now was not the night to have a race where he needed to be damage limiting. He didn't need that poor qualifying. With a better qualifying, he would have been much more in the fight for at least a podium in that race. So yeah, he's got to. You've got to say for Rudy and for Rudy and Rowan now, they've got to recover somewhat in Abu Dhabi next week, because if Legend can continue this performance of just finishing first or second, as he has done in the last four rounds, then he's going to be unstoppable. Even if he finishes second in the next 2 races, Rowan's going to have to win both of them, and Rudy the same, to still win this title. So if Legend can keep this performance up and keep getting first or second place finishes, then he is now definitely the favourite for this title.
I swear we get dip favourites for pretty much a lot of the season. First it was Rudy, last week it was Rowan, then it was Legend. It may switch to Rudy next week. You don't know. It could go either way. That's what I like about this championship this season. Probably the closest I've ever commentated since I started last season, to be honest, as well. Hopefully we'll get an interview from Legend. I think Legend was very keen to be in interviews this week. Unfortunately, his Discord was not behaving very well last week, so we didn't get, obviously, interviews. So let's, if I go on to my stream deck and get the interview slide, there we go. So I'll see if I can drag him in, as he can try and speak to us. I'll try and get him before he appears off the waiting room. That's a start. So let's have a chat with our race winner for this week, Legend. Legend, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, Legend. First of all, massive well done on your victory today. Great battle between yourself and Asacombe. And you're now the championship leader, de facto championship leader now, because obviously you got more points now. So how does it feel to have another good race under your belt?
Yeah, first of all, it really feels very great, very good. And yeah, like I said, second half of the season is going well so far. and that was planned. So hopefully there are 2 races left. Anything can happen, but yeah, I hope I can continue this form and win the championship.
Yes, and obviously it started off with a wet qualifying, and obviously we know how much you like the wet conditions. Unfortunately, you didn't convert it to pole, but you were managing to get some great lap times early on in the session. How hard was it to adapt to a track that obviously was updated this year on the F122 game and hasn't raced in a while in PSGL? Obviously, you put practice in other leagues as well. Was it hard to adapt from the previous Australia track to this one on this game, do you think?
No, not really, because you have one longer straight, so there's one braking zone less, so it is easier. But apart from that, I think the track has been easier to drive than last year's, and I really enjoy the track. Although I feel like on PlayStation it is a little bit not the best track. But on PC, I've drove a few laps on there, and it feels amazing. So yeah, I love the track, but it's not my favorite, but it's a good track.
I was about to say if you found it easier, and you already answered my question, so that was good that you didn't your answers there as well. Obviously, going into the final 2 rounds as well, you are leading the championship. You got Rowan and Rudy behind you now. What are you gonna do to try and stop him? Because you know how obviously Rowan had his good result last week. He got the most wins. Obviously, Rudy's struggling a little bit, but he knows he can fight back as well. What are you gonna do to avoid not becoming complacent and delivering at your best for the final 2 races?
Same like I did today. That's winning.
Go for the dub, I see. I like a good answer as well. Very, very confident. Aiden, do you have any questions?
I think I'm going to go for the same question I go for pretty much every week. Congratulations, Legend. Next week, of course, Abu Dhabi for the penultimate round of the season. Obviously, you want to keep winning for the rest of the season, and you've done such a good job as of recently finishing first or second. Is Abu Dhabi a track where you're going to be finishing second, or is it a track where you're going to be winning?
Winning, yeah.
Definitely winning, yeah, definitely one you enjoy. Yeah, and then of course we obviously know COTA, of course, is a great track for yourself. We've mentioned it a million times before, but your performance there last season was absolutely incredible. Do you think it's a case of you, like you say, you want to keep winning for the rest of the season, but is it a case of you want to wrap up this championship as much as you can before COTA, or are you not too worried about that?
Well, first of all, I have to see how in Abu Dhabi the race goes. Obviously, the championship will be in my mind there, but yeah, you know, if it goes to the last round, then yeah, that's fine as well. But yeah, hopefully I can wrap it up in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, it will be hard. But I don't really mind if I win it in Abu Dhabi or in the last race.
As long as you win it.
Yeah, yeah, I was going to say, a win is a win either way. It doesn't matter where you get it. But yeah, congratulations on your second win of the season, Legend. Great performance from yourself today.
Thank you.
And that was our interview with Legend. We'll see if anyone else wants to speak to us. Doesn't look like it at the moment, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully we would have liked to speak to Asacombe, but unfortunately Asacombe doesn't want to speak to us at this moment in time. But we are about to wrap up this F1 stream. Aiden, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
It's getting interesting again, isn't it? The championship keeps taking a different swing every week. Like you mentioned a few minutes ago, it started off with Rudy looking like this championship was already sewn up halfway through, and then Rowan was on a great run of form and he looked like the favourite, and now Legend all of a sudden looks like the favourite for the championship. It just keeps changing each week. I mean, who knows what's going to happen next week? But yeah, it's been such an interesting championship. I can't wait to see what these final 2 rounds are going to bring, and they're 2 tracks that are very different from one another and provide very different styles of racing. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting way to finish off the season. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, can't wait for it. Can't wait for the final 2 rounds.
And Abu Dhabi, another track where it has changed, obviously, since the last time we raced on this game as well. A few changes in the second sector as well, which I prefer and some people don't. Charles Leclerc actually prefers the old version of the circuit, but I definitely like the new version of the circuit. A lot better, a lot more overtakes, and Abu Dhabi is usually a very good track for league racing, so I think next week is going to be very, very entertaining indeed. So before we go, make sure you like this video and like the stream if you're watching it live, and also hit that subscribe button We're on a good amount of subs at the moment, so make sure you check us out. Hit that bell as well so you can be notified what streams are coming up. We got GT7 tomorrow. I believe that's at 8 p.m. And of course, we got PCF1 on Wednesdays. They go on to Abu Dhabi for the second round of their championship as well, with George Morgan and Jack Canan take you through the action. And then we got the lower PC tiers on Thursday, and then we got myself and Aiden take you through the action next week. Before we go, make sure you check out our sponsor, GT Omega. You can get 5% off GT Omega products by using the code PSGL. Click the link in the description. And also one of our new sponsors, Williams Esports, where you can book tickets for their Williams Esports Centre, which I played at the beginning of the stream. I will play at the end as well. You can get tickets for their event, one of which is this Thursday if you want to sign up and do a bit of racing in the esports facility. And I looked at the pictures and it looks really, really decent. So yeah, check those sponsors out. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well, Premier SimGL. And have a good evening, everybody. For myself and Aiden, we will see you same time next week for the amazing Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Will Legend wrap it up next week? We'll find out in a week's time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.